Siri, what time is it? What time is it?
It's yoga time.
All right. Kitties. Oh. Yes, I would like to use my continue. Just let me not hearing anything. Boom, turn that on. And let me, what am I gonna do? Tilt this up is what I'm trying to do. Okay. Very good. Welcome, hello. It's hips day. And before I just take the wheel, does anybody have any requests? You can feel free to unmute yourself and share them if you do. We have both peaches in here. That's crazy.
Whoop whoop.
I think we need to do outer hips and some inner thighs, which will cover some of the same ground as last time and then be different. Everybody needs kind of both of those things to some degree or another. Stay there, please. Or just not in front of the computer. Okay, so we are gonna start with just get grounded for a second in a comfortable seat. Seat as an upright seat, seat as in the floor, seat as in kneeling. All of them are fine. Legs out in front of you, cross-legged, your own version of a seat. And then you're just gonna slow your breathing down. As your breathing slows down, you might notice where you hold tension. I'm trying to put myself back in the position of sitting and sitting, like caused tension in my body, in my left shoulder, and of course in the hips are a common place. In the back are places that people feel tension. All kinked up in here. For me, it was up in this left shoulder, just sitting. What I would accumulate tension up in there. So notice those areas, and then just instead of nitpicking them, you just kind of say, hello, you exist, and then let it go from there, which can be one of the harder things to do. So just acknowledge, hey, you're talking to me, I hear you, and we'll get to you eventually, because not everything can be managed immediately. So once you kind of have scanned through your body and you have made your salutations to the areas that want to be the loudest today, you can set yourself up in a Baddha Konasana or a butterfly pose. So feet together, knees out. Now you can do this, covered it last time in a seat with the lower surface to put your feet on. You can do it seated like I'm doing, or you can actually do it with a backstop, which I think I'm going to do because I personally get a lot more out of it with something behind my back to help keep my spine from rounding. And then I can scoot my butt further back and my hips want to open more. So it's bound angle because you connect your upper appendages into your lower appendages somehow. How you do that is going to be specifically up to you. A very common place to hold is at your feet. Some people like to hold with a strap at their feet, depending on what's going on. You can push, again, body depending, you may be able to push on your thighs, not your knees, and open up a little bit more that way, or that might be too intense. You might just want to stick some props underneath your knees while doing that and let gravity kind of take control from there. While you're breathing, you're trying to expand the lower portion of the lobes of your lung downward, which you do anyways on your inhale by the action of your diaphragm, but you want to do that purposefully here. Why? The propagation of that expansive energy downward from the lung tissue itself creates low-level cascade of downward pressure through the motility of your organs and eventually into the muscles in your pelvis. In particular, those iliacus muscles that are sort of strung on the inside of the crest of your hips. For me, that's actually where I feel this pose the most. A lot of people feel it in their inner thighs. I feel it there too, but less there compared to up in the iliacus. And when I say expansive, I do also mean into the pelvic floor. Briefly, we'll be here for another, let's say 10 or so breaths while I talk at you. You are trying to expand and not exactly push out, of course. You don't want to push things out of your pelvis, your pelvic diaphragm. But also, you don't want to clench either all the time. In yoga, there are energy locks. There's an energy lock in your feet and in your pelvic floor together as a force, but right now your feet are not so much as active as the pelvic floor, which is the real base of this shape. And as your pelvic floor is expanding down somewhat on your inhale, right, you're helping to pull, like a plunger, the energy of your lungs downward. And on the reciprocal side of things, on the way up, there is a little gentle lifting, like a Kegel, so to speak, if you're a lady. But ultimately, you can think of the plunger working in reverse. The energy lock in the feet and pelvic floor is called Mula Bandha. It is Mula, M-U-L-A, Bandha, B-A-N-D-H-A. They're important. These are important things to know. There's mysticism involved in the practice of yoga with them, but ultimately, as we unpack that mysticism, we just see very good physiological principles that were harder to explain because empirical evidence didn't really come into play back then. All right, so come on out. Shift away from the wall, shift your feet away from me a little bit, and ooh, lovely. Okay, let's go. Straight legs, ankle cross, one leg over the other. If you have your props, grab your props and create a little 2 columns. And then really depends on where you are. If you can use your forearms as a surface, you can come on down and lay your head on your own arms. Some people are going to get a chair real quick. For some people, that might be insufficient. For many people, actually, that may be insufficient, right? Because they're way up taller. Ankle crossed. All right, and then pull the chair up. And then rest on the chair. Head on the chair, arms long. You can move the chair forward as you open up. And when that's no longer useful, you can go to using the yoga blocks. So we'll do this on both sides, so take your time. If you need to go get something, go get something. Actually, for me, the arms, I could take a single block, put it on my leg, and trap it between my head and my leg, and that's actually gonna be about the right level for me today. So, where you feel this is going to be somewhat individual to your body. What I do want you to try to do is I want you to try to internally rotate your legs a little bit. So instead of letting your thighs flop, spiral open, spiral them in toward each other just a little bit. And as you can, reach your arms long. If you can hold at the ankle, get your arms long at the ankle. Or if you can hold at the feet, hold at the feet. Or if you need to grab a strap to help you do that. There is some benefit in completing this, if you think of this as an energy circuit. Open circuit, closed circuit. Energy has no place to go after a certain point. Energy can matriculate through this closed circuit indefinitely. And the lengthening of the lower body and the lengthening of the upper body work together to create multi-system stretches. If you think about it, your muscles, a lot of people like to look at it reductively, one muscle at a time. Western science does a lot of that. PT does a lot of that. It looks at one single muscle or at most a couple of different muscles together, but neglects to look at them as a system, although that is changing as PTs start to integrate a better understanding of the fascial network into their programs. So there's hope for the future in that. But that's what you're trying to do. There's these big integrated bands of fascia between muscle networks, and you're breathing across those networks for a better holistic stretch here. All right, come on up, and we'll switch sides. Pick it up wherever you need to. Block on leg, head on block, head on block, on block on leg, or something. You want your breathing to be expansive, even here in these shapes where you are experiencing like a whole lot of body on body connection, especially this ultra common and what's the other way? Let's just stick with common for now. This ultra common hip hinge forward fold compression would be probably one of the more common. It's certainly the largest, biggest compression, right, that you're going to do for the most part in your body. So while you're doing it, it amplifies the resonance of your breath within your torso and even beyond your torso somewhat as well. So you are, despite the compression, still trying to breathe as expansively as possible, but that can be harder. And the way you get around that is you take slower, softer breaths. Longer, slower, softer breaths. You're not going to get more air in quickly. Only your lungs will adapt and soften around a slower, softer breath, where they will sort of push back against a faster, shorter, harder breath. And likewise on your exhales, the more you can draw them out, those are the moments where your muscles want to turn off more and gravity will enact greater changes on your body. And your body will adapt to that gravitational force and the shape that you're making combined. Okie dokie, come on up. So now we're gonna switch it. I'm gonna turn to you. Okay, so same, I don't remember what leg, I think I did right over left first. So you'll take your right leg and let's start up. Foot flat, knee up, but as you can see, maybe my inner thigh is slightly biased into my chest versus the top of my thigh. All right, this would be top of thigh. Crossed over like this, it's the inner thigh toward my chest more so. You may want to scoot your back against a prop if you have a hard time not wanting to go backward. Hug yourself, hug that leg in. All right, that might automatically give you a stretch in the outer hip if you're tight there. You can stay and work on the compression. There's a tendency for the chest to be slid down and the sternum to be down, and you kind of want to treat that as a plane that you can lift up nice and tall, push the top of the head nice and tall. You can twist that a little bit, but you can't twist from being leaned back. You have to be just tiny bit vertical slash maybe even a little pitched forward and twist, and the twist is not a dramatic twist. And the twist greatly amplifies the feeling of compression and against the breathing. Okay, exhale to center. Maybe you stay if you're getting a whole lot out of that, then maybe you need just that. If you can, notice how I grabbed the ankle with my opposite side hand, pulled it backward, and I've dropped that knee down on top of my straight leg. Okay, some people, they'll kind of get stuck with that knee up high. You may benefit from sitting on a block so that there's more space to drop the knee down. And regardless of where you ended up, the idea is that you then pitch your whole torso forward over both of your legs. So again, your blocks exist to hold the weight of your upper body so that you don't have to hold your upper body with your upper body, and your upper body can be involved in the release. This is another one of those poses, and I've said this before, there are some poses where you just get in them and the only name of the game is to like release tension. This would be one of those. Name of this would be half cow face pose. You might feel this in the outside of the top hip. You might feel this all along the lateral portion of your bottom leg, especially, right, if this bottom straight leg, if you haven't dorsiflexed that ankle, dorsiflex the ankle, it shortens the channel that the sciatic nerve runs in. You may want to point and flex a few times to help to floss that nerve channel. But ultimately, having the ankle dorsiflexed as you're working through, unless it's causing searing pain, in which case don't, just point your toes. But otherwise, you're working to kind of breathe through that. It will eventually release. As I get lower, that stretch travels up the lateral, like my left side erector spinae, or the long muscle along the left side of my spine. So it's like the entirety of the left side of my body is stretching, and that's it. Like you're not gonna get that sciatic nerve release unless from the base of your spine through the Achilles tendon basically stretches as a unit. And that's true in the standard forward fold as well. All right, so we'll do the other side, kick that left foot into place. This goes so fast. Foot flat, hug it. Woo-hoo. Outer hip, or inner thigh to chest, stretch the outer hip. By the way, you can rock that around. It doesn't have to be completely static. All right, and then if you're going to twist, you gotta be vertical or even a little pitched forward. Left hand goes behind you, look over your left shoulder. Okay, to center. Drop the knee down. I use the same, right, transition, hooked ankle, meat hook, ankle, pull it backward to drop the knee down. All right, and then blocks. This is gonna suck because as you can see how flopped I am over here, that's chronic because I'm very tight right now on the outside, and that means ouchie sciatic nerve pain, which is not at a maximum for me right now, but it's there. It wants to creep in. Got to do forward folds. Big deep breaths. You're expanding into the low back, you're expanding into the outer hips, you're expanding into the lengthening of the lateral component of your right leg. All right, coming up. So, in theory, you could lean, bend, stack both knees, outer hip stretch. You also can do that laying on your back, which you could build if you wanted to like go back through this and then build onto the progression. You could do that. But one, this shape is really hard for a lot of people, even on their backs. Two, I think we're gonna get more out of a supine twist. So that's where we're gonna go. And we're gonna set it up and progress it as we go. And I might run out of time. I might run over a little bit in order to get, I'm gonna try not to, but like they're worth sitting in. So like I'm gonna be tempted to sit in it longer and also start you really, all right, so get your blocks. Also, I just want you to know that blocks are great, but also like this could be a block. Let me show you real quick. If I'm laying down and I'm twisting, all right, and this leg is long and this leg goes over, and then I lay down and I want this leg can't be over here. This is just good, right? You want it, it's good because you can see. You want it in line with the rest of your spine. And then this lays down. And a lot of people, they don't know where to put the upper part of their spine. So they gotta line up it all up. All right, and sometimes you need this much height for this top leg, right? Sometimes the yoga block ain't gonna cut it. You gotta get long through that leg, and you're at 90-degree angles here. And then you are sliding this femur into the hip capsule as you're twisting, but also you may want to be bringing this leg way up higher, right? So from the side with the twist, with the block as a different example, all right, leg, spine, everything is in line. The knee is over, or the leg is long. And this is sort of where I started at the couch, but maybe the leg needs to be up here and there needs to be more compression at the hip. But what needs to happen, regardless of where in space this leg is, up or down, is this side piece has to stay long. So if your hip starts hiking up in the course of this twist, then you've gone too far and you need to resituate the pelvis. Remember, your pelvis is a bowl and the bowl is on the side right now, and the rim should not be being weird with itself. The rim of the bowl should be intact even though it's standing on its side. So you're going to set it up so that you're very comfortably in this twist. You want support for your leg, if that happens to be the ground for you. Ooh, she's feisty. Great. You also want to scoot your chest toward the same direction of your leg so that your chest and other leg are in one line. And then this arm opens up in the opposite direction, which is where you start to wind into the back of the hip and the side hip and hip capsule now. You can do this with a straight leg, you can do this with a bent knee if the straight leg is too intense, but you may also want a second prop underneath your ankle and heel so that the knee doesn't get wonky. And you might start to feel compression in the inside of the hip as you sort of continue to wind into the twist. Deep inhales to help expand the ribs, deep exhales to accentuate the diagonal twisting of the skin and muscles through your torso and that space in the compressed part of your top leg hip. Okay, bring it around to the other side. There are also probably like 3 other variations that I didn't get a chance to go over with that, because if we're gonna make time, then we gotta go to the other side now. Set it up, same but different, meaning don't expect both sides to be the exact same. Make allowances for any differences side to side. However, as you're getting into the shape, whatever direction this top leg is going, that's the direction you need to shimmy your shoulders in order to give the arm clearance. Now, example, I've got this bolster pillow right here. It also works really nice to have a bolster behind your back or even behind this top shoulder. If you're also tight in the chest and shoulders, that gives you some support to open up so that it's not requisite for you to make it all the way to the ground. People who can make it all the way to the ground with one or both appendages are good to go. All right, make your way onto your back. If you have your prop handy, you're gonna plant your feet down, bridge your hips up slightly, stick your block underneath your sacrum, not your low back, and then extend one, maybe both legs. This is a very passive stretch through the front of the hips up into the belly. You can amplify that stretch by pulling one knee directly to the center of your chest and getting longer through the leg that still is long. You have to activate behind the leg as well as in that hip crease and use your hands for maximum effect. And then go ahead and switch it out. All right, both feet down, both hips up, block to the side, legs down, heel toe your feet about mat width distance or slightly wider than shoulder width distance. Knock your knees together so that there's ever so slight internal rotation. You don't want to make the knees not feel good, so you can always stick a block there so that you get some of that internal rotation. You want your knees more or less over the hips and over the ankles so that the weight of your thigh bones helps to push your hips back into the back of the hip capsule. Or if you have a chair or anything like that, you can always just swing around and put your legs on a surface, and again, let the weight of the femurs sit into the back of the hip capsule. So this is how we will end here. You can stay for as long as you'd like. You can not move and treat it like a shavasana. You can take it as a little bit of a hip compression by taking the heels of your hands and wedging them into the front, deep into the front of the hips, and then push your arms straight and relax your low back and breathe into that decompression. If you took the more active shape, go ahead and relax now. Everybody take a nice mindful breath in through your nose and out through your nose. And then another one in through your nose, but out through your mouth. And you can make your way up to a comfortable seat, or you can stay and just ignore me and just stay there, that's fine. I'm used to being ignored, boy mom. All right. Notice any shifts in where your body's talking to you. Maybe there's some areas of your body that are saying thank you instead of yelling at you. Hopefully that's true. And we'll close it out with one last cleansing breath. Bring your hands to your heart. Exhale your old air out. Breathe in to hold it in at the top. Open up. Thank you, thank you. See you in the den.